make moves.
Just work that body, make sure you don't hurt nobody. Get wild and lose your mind. Take this thing into overtime. Hey DJ, turn it up. This CD gon' burn it up. Come on, y'all, get on the floor. So hey, let's go. Come on, it's time to get hyped. Say who? Come on, all the fellas say it. Who? Come on, one time for the ladies say it. Who? Yeah, all the fellas say it. Who? Yeah, boy.
Come on, rookie. Show me what you've got. Bring it.
You're the beat back in America.
Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. Come on and slam, come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. You wanna jam? Slam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Get on the floor and jam. UCD on the microphone, girl, you got me in the zone. Come on, let's start the game. Break it down, tell me your name. Team on the go, let's dance all night long. Go, go, just slide, roll up and right, just slide. Yourself like UCD, pop a bass, hip hop one on your feet, jam on it. Let's have some fun. One-on-one, run the loop when I run the beat, so come on, man, just jam with me. Hey ladies, y'all ready to stop? And y'all wanna know why? 'Cause it's the slam jam, fella. Y'all ready to stop? Y'all wanna know why? It's time to slam jam.
Everybody get your chance to dance at the Space Jam.
Come on, everybody say no, 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 no. Come on, everybody.
Damn. That song cures cancer. That's like two mashups that should never have happened together. Slam Jam goes with everything. Guile's theme goes with everything. Hello, everybody. And welcome to my channel. I'm glad you guys can come out for the live stream, despite the fact that Mr. Mediker just dropped a new video. And I just have the best timing ever, all the time. So, yeah, what you guys just heard, maybe I'll just tell you guys what you heard. That was the Guile theme mashed up with the Slam Jam theme. I think they call it the Guile theme medley. So it takes like from, you know, the old CPS2 board, Street Fighter music, but there's also the 8-bit version from, I think they did like a Mega Man Street Fighter crossover game a while back. So if you want to hear that, it's magical. Just do a Google search for that. The Guile theme / Space Jam medley. But that's not what we're here for. I'm here to pick up from where I left off yesterday. I think it was yesterday I did the video. You did tune in just in time, that's correct. So we're going to be looking more at White Wolf a bit, and Vampire the Masquerade, and how social justice ideology has, like everything else, poisoned the shit out of it. I want to also make a few comments. I know somebody made a post that on my video saying that this is all stuff that's at the back of the book, and it's not like, you know, really like sort of, it's not in the rule system itself. It's sort of like stuff in the appendix, which I did say that in the beginning. And well, you know, it's worth pointing out, but I don't think that I don't think that really distracts that much from my point. Is that, you know, even though the people who it may not have been written by the people who actually came up with the engine itself. It may not have been written by the people who came up with the world itself. But the point is that everyone involved with the production of the book, including the editors, people who basically get the final say on what goes in and what doesn't, said that this was not only okay, but it was important enough to put in the book, even if it is in the appendix. I think that still speaks to what I'm saying, you know. So, that being said, though, you know, of course, like any RPG that's a tabletop one, you don't have to include it in your vampire game, and I'm not even trying to make that argument. So, but let's look at So another thing that I heard was that all this stuff in the appendix about fascism in the game and like how to treat sexual assault and all this bullshit supposedly came into the new edition partly for damage control reasons, according to some people who spoke to me about it. So I want to go through the original. There was a blog written on a website called dogwithdice.com, no relation to me at all whatsoever, that I guess sort of spurned this on. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read through this again. I gotta reiterate, I have almost very little experience with Vampire the Masquerade, very little, but I hate that this ideology is getting into tabletop, and I'm gonna cut it off if I can. I'm gonna stop it before it gets too bad. Now I know that in many ways it's pretty infused, right? But I think that if we talk about it, we can make some change. It's sort of like what's going on in comics, right? Like Marvel is almost lost in print. They're doing really well, in film, but they're almost lost in print. And they may also be lost in film, too, if they go in the direction that I think they might be going. We'll see when Captain Marvel comes out. But that doesn't mean that people can't make change and essentially, like, fill that void for good stories. And I think the same could be true of tabletop gaming. People, if somebody comes out with a new game and they counter-signal in their game, it will sell. But we need to make people aware that this stuff is happening now anyway. So, so we're going to look at this blog. How New White Wolf Marketed Vampire the Masquerade to the Alt-Right and Neo-Nazis. Oh, God. This page discussed the marketing of White Wolf Publishing's new edition of Vampire the Masquerade, raising concerns of the game's purported intent of exploring themes of political extremism and fascist ideologies in modern society, specifically the presentation that was given to such themes that would draw an audience of alt-right and neo-Nazi leanings. Okay. The intention of this page was, always and explicitly, to convince either White Wolf Publishing or their fans that this was not the artistic direction that a game released in today's political cultural climate needed. That was made explicitly clear in the article. Alright. At no point were any allegations of the staff of White Wolf Publishing or Onyx Path Publishing being Nazis made. Oh, okay, they didn't make I get it. It's a weird sentence, but I get it. At several points, the article was clear to point this out. Claims stating otherwise are false and have no basis in either the article as published or in reality. Nevertheless, that fictional narrative has been spread, often by staff both present and past of White Wolf and Onyx Path, many of who has cut ties with this site's staff and closed ranks, including those whose works we have recommended and supported. All right, well, so these people burn their bridges. This website, with Vampire. They burn their bridges by making accusations. And while this guy says, I'm not saying the people at Vampire or Onyx Path are actually Nazis. I never said that. But I'm saying that it could draw an audience of Nazis. Well, that's still not good. Not good. Right? And yeah, you're right. Should be many of whom. It's like the and it's actually what happening here is this guy's getting busted for using weasel words. You know how Tariq Nasheed always says, suspected white supremacists. Well, the reason why he says suspected white supremacists is it gives him plausible deniability. He can basically be like, if it's proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's no way these people are white supremacists, then he can say, well, I didn't say they were. I said they were suspected. But when you make the accusation that someone is suspected or that their content could attract, evil people, what is it that they say about like Jordan B. Peterson? Like he flirts with the alt-right. that's you can that gives you the ability to back out and say, hey man, I didn't say that it is that he's alt-right. I just said he flirts with them. I just said that his content could attract them. I just said that he should probably reconsider what he's doing so that he doesn't attract evil people. And that's what this is. This is what this guy's saying is that White Wolf aren't Nazis. They just make content that Nazis like. Well, that's not good. That's probably why, they burned bridges with you, and they close ranks on themselves, and that means that they have cut ties with staff members whose works that they have recommended. Well, sorry. Maybe I wouldn't want ideologues working in my fucking company if they can actually if it involves creative content, because I think that ideological people, they make shitty content. It's bad. It's just shit. All right. So anyway, continuing, he says, therefore, due to, and he has this bullet point list, threats of personal violence and death directed at myself and my loved ones.
Prove it, faggot.
Including at least 3, which has been traced to past and present staff of White Wolf Publishing and Onyx Path Publishing, of which screenshots have been saved and forwarded to law enforcement agencies who advise on retaining an anonymity of the individuals in this matter. Well, I guess we can't really find out if they did it. I guess we can never know, because these people whose work and livelihood I have supported, often vocally and certainly financially, to the point where my name is listed in several of the 20th anniversary editions. Okay, so he's got violence and death threats at himself, at his loved ones, and at least 3 of them have been traced to staff of White Wolf Publishing, past and present. So he's not accusing them of being Nazis, but he is accusing some of them of giving him violence and death threats online. Okay. So that's one. I would hesitate to use the label of evil. I think these people genuinely believe that they are advocating in their own self-interest. Shaman King, thank you for the comment. I forgot already what I think that. Okay, let me think about this for a second. I think that SJWs genuinely believe that they are on the side of good, and that people who are not on the side of good, that they have decided are their enemy, or they've been told is their enemy, they believe that they're evil. Or at the very least, no, I think they believe they're evil. Like, they believe that Trump is evil. They believe that MRAs are evil. They believe that people who disagree with them are uneducated at best, evil at worst. But I could be wrong, but that's what I think. All right. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So that was one bullet point. Next bullet point. Actual harassment and abuse directed to people who work both in and outside of the gaming community, including employees of White Wolf Publishing and Onyx Path Publishing, and others not related to either company, which was completely at odds with both the spirit and the text of the original article, which at multiple points stressed that such actions were harmful to the gaming community as a whole, as well as the individuals involved. So he got actual harassment and abuse, again.
Prove it, faggot.
In and outside of the gaming community, including employees of White Wolf Publishing and Onyx Path. It sounds like he's saying, he's just repeating himself in 2 different bullet points. Okay. Continuing on, whatever. There's no evidence, so I don't know. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I need to see more. Fictitious and unsubstantiated claims of campaigns of harassment allegedly taken by staff of this site against members of the White Wolf Publishing and Onyx Path Publishing. Okay. Namely, Dr. Matthew Dawkins, who has never received any communication from any members of this site at any point in time. So now he's accusing people of White Wolf and Onyx Path of making false claims of harassment. And yeah, okay. And which were spread by others at White Wolf Publishing and Onyx Path, including Mr. Matthew Webb and others who I financially supported in the past, which are without evidence and make claims which are openly known to be false. I can't speak to this, but it sounds like there's some drama either being created or going on. Multiple vitriolic email responses to the article from popular feminist gaming critic Anna Creeder. Okay, so I don't know who that is. I was almost going to predict what they were going to say. Let me see who Anna Creeder is. I want to see. She's a feminist gaming critic. I can already tell you. She doesn't. She's going to have some interesting. Does she have a Twitter? Because that's going to be the easiest way. All right, resting witch face. Let's see. So I'm looking at some of Anna Creeder's tweets. I didn't want to put it on the screen because I don't know if she's like one of these, like if she's gonna have some porn on there or some shit. But no, she's probably fun police. All right. I'm in your hobby, destroying your game. So here's her making a joke about how she's ruining people's hobbies. Nice. Resting witch face. She sounds like a really pleasant human being. Here's some tweets. I don't know why I'm surprised anymore, but it turns out that talking about your feelings about sexism is way more controversial than facts. What? Facts are more important than your feelings about sexism. Sorry. That it's not controversial, it's just bullshit. Here's one from just the other day. A dude in line just now. There's only two true genders, men and boys. What even are men? They're one of the two genders, bitch. Resting witch face. And we need to stop only planning events for people who look like us and getting serious about removing barriers to access, especially when they're barriers that don't affect us. I don't know what that means. White ladies, we gotta stop focusing only on the marginalization that affects us only, and we need to start fucking showing up for issues that affect women of color. Ah, she's pushing against white feminism. I say again, childcare is a feminist issue, and racial justice requires getting over yourself and fucking showing up for childcare equality. What the fuck is childcare equality? Alright, so this bitch is insane. And she's a critic. I just see her bitching about the world in here. Yeah, I don't know. Hot take, activist organizers who make their events not accessible to parents and child havers. What the hell's a child haver? Oh, right. Right. They have to come up with a term for people who aren't biological parents. They're child havers. Parents and child havers are perpetuating misogynist stereotypes that raising children is women's work that gets in the way of real important work. Good God. And she retweets Anita Sarkeesian. I'm done. I'm done. Exactly what I expected. Okay. I'm done. I'm going to go back to reading this thing. So, oh yeah. So they got vitriolic email responses to the article from popular feminist gaming critic Anna Creeder demanding that the site remain complicit by means of silence. Emails from individuals claiming to represent White Wolf Publishing containing purported legal threats, which were, upon further investigation, determined to be fraudulent, and other attempts to silence voices of criticism and inquiry. All right. So I haven't finished this yet, but I'm actually starting to have a thought here. I'm having a thought here. I'm having myself a think. What if White Wolf was... Okay, what if we're looking at a kind of microcosm of a Gamergate situation here, where this guy wrote this article, White Wolf put in their 5th edition that blurb about fascism as a way to appease the people like this guy. But behind the scenes, there are emails going back and forth and arguments and criticisms towards the people who run this site dogwithdice.com. And they're criticizing them. They're also getting harassment from them, like in a kind of crash override network kind of way from the people who operate this website. And of course, because when I hear this, multiple vitriolic email responses to the article from popular feminist gaming critic Anna Creeder, I'm sorry, but I just don't believe it. Feminists crying victimhood and saying that they have a folder full of threats, and that they get it. They get so many emails, thousands of emails every day that are really like abusive and vitriolic. I don't buy it. I just don't. And I find it really suspicious. Now, I think that it's, I don't know. Like, I don't have all the info. But what if that's what's going on? You know? What if these people that made this post are the assholes, and White Wolf is trying to, like, do damage control by putting some stuff in the back of their book to say, hey, man, we're not fascists, we're not pro-fascist. If you're a fascist, then rethink your life, right? I think it's a shitty thing to do because it's not necessary, but it's possible. Or worse, they could all be SJWs at just different degrees, and these people are more radical than the people that work at White Wolf. And they're just like, you know, because that's definitely a thing, right? There are people who believe in rape culture and then they believe in all the stuff, right? But they're just not super crazy communist critics. They're just kind of communist critics. There's not that far. They're like, hey, you know, I still want to run my business, and then after that, you know, we'll start the revolution. But I need to run my business, right? I don't know. Or, you know, White Wolf is a company, and there's lots of people there with different opinions, and this is more like, I guess it's like a blog. So I don't know. I'm just wondering, we might be seeing that this is a far more complex situation with lots of players. But I don't buy the threatening emails and shit. So the second option, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I would assume that they're probably all like kind of, you know, leftists, but like to different degrees. All right, so continuing his bullet point list. Due to emails from individuals claiming to represent White Wolf Publishing containing purported legal threats, which were, upon further investigation, determined to be fraudulent, and other attempts on avoid. I already read that part. This page has now been removed. For those who truly wish to read it, I am certain that it will have been mirrored and archived. I'm reading it right now. It's a JPEG. And should be easy to find. However, as a result of the threats, misinformation, lies, and abuse that has resulted, I have to place my own safety first and remove both this and my online social media presence. The goal of Dog with Dice at its inception was to promote and encourage gaming in a more progressive atmosphere. To help make steps towards inclusiveness, you mean take steps, but okay. To help take steps towards inclusiveness and to enable others to help in pushing back against toxic cultures that have grown. What do you define as a toxic culture? Is it just any culture but yours? I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. All right. Toxic cultures that have grown. Unfortunately, it appears that those toxic cultures are simply the way that the gaming community and those who support it wish for it to be. Holy shit, this guy's a moron. Are you kidding me? Most people in gaming, and I would argue that most people in general, if they have an education, they have a little bit of Marxist thought. Most people. A little bit is there. Because that's been educated into them, or they saw it in entertainment or something. I'm not saying that they are full on. I'm saying they have some of that with them. I say that as somebody who used to buy into it. You know? And the fact that I found out I was lied to all these years, it really pisses me off. So, all right. While the gaming community values bullying, cronyism, complicity by silence, criticism, which does not stick its own ethics, self-serving liars, and the use of a large corporate platform to silence smaller voices of criticism, then the toxic culture that infests the gaming community remains in place. Holy shit, projection! So much I can't see. I can't see. The light from the projector has blinded me. I'm sorry, I can't finish this. I can't finish the show. I can't see shit. Oh my god. Jesus. I need a minute. I gotta wash my eyes out with water. Hold on, I gotta go. I'll be right back. Okay. Whew, I put in some eye drops, and I think my vision's starting to come back. That was really bright. Oh, shit. My god, these people. Are you fucking kidding me? Who does the bullying, cronyism, complicity by silence, criticism which does not stick its own ethics, self-serving liars, and use of a large corporate platform to silence smaller voices of criticism? Can you not see what you're talking about? Can you not see it? Jesus. It's amazing. It's amazing that they can't see that. Alright, moving on. Because it seems that is the way that you, the gaming community, want it. And that's no longer a community that I want anything to do with. In a community that hemorrhages players due to toxicity. No, it hemorrhages players due to fucking feminism. That's why. And it should. Any company that uses feminism as a central part of its marketing and its products, they should go broke. Absolutely. Get woke, go broke. Fuck it. I don't care if it's something I love. You know, I was talking about James Gunn yesterday, and I love the Guardians movies, but if this Me Too thing results in them like fucking Disney just dies, I don't think they will, but you know, like the Marvel films just fucking die. Like I swear to God, after I watch Infinity War Part 2, I'm not watching anymore because I know they're gonna go down the SJW rabbit hole and they're gonna be ruined. It'd be like you know how bands were in their prime and everything they made is good, but the longer they stay around, the worse their music gets. It just inevitably happens most of the time. I was talking to a friend of mine a while back, many years ago, and he was talking about how sad it was that Kurt Cobain killed himself. And I said, yeah, man, it's really sad that, you know, suicide is, you know, that's really serious business and all. But think about this. If he stayed alive and stayed with Nirvana, they would have eventually made a real turd of an album. And that would have been what people know them by. They would eventually have gone the way of, you know, fucking Paul McCartney and Wings. Like, where people are just kind of like, yeah, the music's okay, but... So, I'm just saying, I think that if it all burns in hell because of, you know, they put this ideological shit in there, it should. And they should learn from that. They won't. Some of them will. Some of the ones that use it as a method of just making money because they think that this is what the kids like, they'll wake up and be like, okay, this isn't selling, you know. But the ones that don't, I don't give a shit. Fuck them. Yeah, SJW virtue signaling is a PR machine for like really big corporations. I think it is. For like indie developers though, that make little projects, whether they're video games or they're independent film or they're tabletop RPGs, whatever. I think they're usually really thinking that this is what needs to be said and they feel really strongly about it. But their work tends to be shit. So, like retro games these days, they piss me off because they don't actually... Like, they just have ugly-ass pixels, but they don't really play like retro games. You know? Alright, well anyway. In a community that hemorrhages players due to toxicity, you have lost one who had truly aimed to have your backs. Nice one. See ya. Alright. Bye, Felicia. Fuck it. Alright, so moving on. So here's some other stuff from the Vampire game that might be sort of like further evidence that there's probably some SJWs that are involved with development and you know, like the actual setting, world building, as well as the system stuff. There might be. So here's something called okay, so I think this is a merit. Yeah, so in Vampire the Masquerade, storyteller games in general, right? They have these things when you make your character, they're called merits. And they're basically like advantages, and they have different costs. And merits give you like a bonus, I think. They let you do, bonus stuff. And I could have this wrong, but I haven't played Storyteller since the 90s, so give me a break, right? So here's a merit called Undead Menses. Undead Menses. This is for your vampire character. Effect. Throughout history, various cultures attributed mystical significance to the menstrual cycle. Many of these myths carried stigmas against Menses due to the unhealthy fears of men in power. Fucking men. With this merit, your character still produces menstrual blood. Oh god. Once per night, she can produce a viscous, but also vicious, dark blood. If she uses this blood in casting a Kruak ritual, she benefits from the 8 again quality. I don't know what any of that means. It doesn't matter. This is about Menses as an ability. If she touches it to a person before affecting them with a discipline, they suffer her blood potency as a penalty to their resistance because they got grossed out or what? Drawback. The character must identify as female. Well, that sounds transphobic. If she draws forth her undead Menses multiple times, although they must identify as female, so maybe not. I think you just have to identify as female. So I was wrong. If she draws forth her undead Menses multiple times in an evening, each beyond the first causes her a level of aggravated damage. As well, any attempts to identify her by menstrual blood gains a +5 bonus. That's fucking gross, man. What the fuck, man? Why would you put that in a game? I mean, I guess some people just want to do that. Like, you know what? More power to you. But this menstrual cycle stuff, especially this, what is it? Various cultures attributed mystical significance to the... Isn't that what feminists do? Like, when they worship the moon? Because, you know, there's a lot of, like, feminist witches or Wiccans or fucking pagans. I don't know what the fuck. And they, there's a lot of this Mother Earth, you know, the moon goddess shit. So this could be from that. This could be from that. I wouldn't think it's a stretch to say so. So there's the menstrual rules. Okay, if you want to put that in, if you want that for your Wiccan feminist, and then there's a section called Gender and Pregnancy. This is also from a book. I don't know if it's the same one, but it's another screenshot somebody gave me from a Vampire the Masquerade book. Gender is fluid, and gender expression does not always relate to the reproductive capability in the real world. For the supernatural creatures of the world of darkness, this is even more true. So it's already true, but now it's more true. More true. The other things were less true, but still true. This is more true. When discussing creatures like wolf-blooded and werewolves with powers like Luna's embrace, oh god, gender should have no bearing on whether or not a character can become pregnant. The only thing that should stop a male character's pregnancy should be a player who does not want to tell that story. What about your pelvis? Does that have anything to do with it? Wiccan is white voodoo. It is. It is. Thank you, the great indoors, for that comment. Shaman King XYZ, if they identify as female and they breathe, they're a thought. That's true. Thank you, Shaman King, for that comment. I'm Lise Maxwell. I must have missed a couple of books. apparently so. Spike couldn't impregnate Buffy. Rip. Yeah, so on the one hand, well, okay, so maybe this makes sense. I don't know. Okay, so with the Menses, you have to identify as female. But with the pregnancy and gender, you don't. But you can be there's no restrictions. Werewolf males can totally become pregnant. I read it someplace. The fucking you know, what's the name of the guy with the 1,000 faces that played the werewolf or the Wolfman back in the day? Lon Chaney. He you know, he was gonna do a pregnant werewolf role when they were gonna make the they were working on so many werewolf movies, and I'm pretty sure there's one out there called the Son of the Wolfman, where Lon Chaney gives birth to another baby Wolfman. Lon Chaney Jr. Plays him. It's actually his first ever role. He's a newborn at the time. So yeah, so that's totally a thing. So yeah, so our R.I.P. White Wolf. Press F to pay respects. You have drank the Kool-Aid. And it sounds like you guys have some infighting that you're dealing with too, possibly. You might want to tell people to go fuck themselves and just like make the game you want to make, and maybe like get that cancer out of your game. Get that shit out of there. I'm going to look at some comments, see what you guys are saying. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing. Let's see. The Druids never wrote anything down, so everything we know about them is secondhand. Those motherfuckers. Intellectual. That was Wikipedia snippet. Thank you, Wikipedia snippet. Intellectual iconoclasm. It's actually thematic to the religion that uses that power. That's where a lot of it comes from. Vampiric blood witches, male and female. So can the male ones have Menses? Can they get the thing? They call me Mags. I made you a meme and put it on Discord. All right, let me take a look. Did you tag me in it? Starter chat. Main chat grunts. Let's see. Thanks. It's funny. I will share it so that you guys can see it too. Alright, so what else is going on? What are we paying respects to? Oh, White Wolf. They're dead. They may as well be. I'm sure that there's gonna be a higher proportion of fat goth bitches though that will get involved with White Wolf. It appeases their sensibilities. Where is the body positivity in Vampire the Masquerade? That's what I want to know. They're probably going to put that in. All right. Luna Protege says, I think gender change stuff happens in a game using a similar system to Vampire. I forget the name. It has solar, lunar, and side real possible characters. Exalted, yeah, I remember that. You know, Exalted had really cool art, and I like the world, but I don't like the storyteller system. I like systems that are crunchier and more thematic. The thing about generic systems that do everything is that they tend to be a bit dull and oversimplified. I like stuff a little bit crunchier. I want to like, you know, I want to like I don't know, like I like crunchier stuff. Like I like the Mutants and Mastermind system. I'll give you some examples of systems I like. I mean, I like the Mutants and Mastermind system. I like 3.0 D&D. I like 5th edition. It's a bit simpler. I'm okay with that. I like Deadlands was very cool. Legend of the Five Rings was very cool. 7th Sea was very cool. Weird Wars was really... Weird Wars 2, I think it's called. It's like Weird War 2, World War 2. Yeah, I like those. I like games like that. There's like some level of complexity. Not like overdone like Traveler and shit or fucking Chartmaster, but I like those. Yeah, I'm kind of an older school guy. Luna says I like Pathfinder over D&D. Pathfinder is crunchier. It is crunchier, but they've really drunk the Kool-Aid. Really. And I like the settings in D&D. So, Observing Libertarian says, the Menses part is inspired greatly by Wicca, and there was an old third-wave feminist book, forget which one, which was a novel where women lived in nature and helped trees menstruate. Yeah, I know. It's Wicca is totally like, it's totally been co-opted by feminists for decades. For decades. Or it may have always been since its resurgence in like the 20th century. You know, like when it kind of made a pop culture comeback, you could say. You know? I know that if Hannah was here, she would basically like say that she is, I think she's, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I know that she's either Wiccan, pagan, or something, right? And she knows that it's like heavily feminist though. It's basically like fucking, it's a way of taking a religion and adding religion to it. That is taking feminism and adding Wicca to it. I'd stick with D&D 3.5. Yeah, 3.5 is cool. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to move on to the next topic. So this is related to the image you see in the background. That's the Firekeeper from Dark Souls. I am a Dark Souls fanatic. I love the Dark Souls games. I've played them multiple times. I actually really want Demon Souls to make a comeback or maybe get a sequel. I think that Demon Souls is one of my favorite of the Souls games, despite the fact that it's kind of like the first one out and pretty old. Fun fact, you may not know this, you may know this, I don't know how unusual this is. Have you guys ever heard of a game series called Kingsfield? Kingsfield, which was an old game from like back in the PlayStation 1 days, if not before that, is the spiritual predecessor to Dark Souls. Same developers, they just took it in a different direction. Demon Souls and Dark Souls, as well as Bloodborne. So, Observing Libertarian says, I actually got a community strike by doing a video about Wicca having been co-opted by feminism. It pissed off a pagan douche who labeled a false strike against me for it. That's the way that they fight against you. It's almost like, oh, I don't know. The gaming community values, apparently the gaming community, not actual feminists, they value bullying, cronyism, complicity by silence, and criticism which does not stick its own ethics, as well as self-serving liars, and use of a large corporate platform, YouTube, to silence smaller voices of criticism. So that couldn't be him. That couldn't be that guy. It had to be people from your camp, because those are the only people who do those things. Alright. Why does Kotaku think I want to click on articles about John McCain? Yeah, because Kotaku is a gaming website, supposedly. Not a political website. Totally not political, guys. Yeah, it is blinding. I have to like change pages because the light was starting to build back up. But I'm wearing sunglasses now, so I should be okay. Alright, so Souls games are great, except for the sexist messages from some players. This was done last Thursday by Ario Ilami, whoever the fuck that is. Alright, so let's think about this for a second. This guy's writing a Souls article a week ago. Okay? And the Souls games, some of them are fucking old. Demon Souls is almost 10 years old. Demon Souls is almost 10 years old. Dark Souls, the first one, I think is about 8 years old. And Dark Souls 2, about 6 years old. And Dark Souls 3, about 3 years old. No, actually, it's a bit more recent than that. I'd say 2 years, I think. Dark Souls 3. And Bloodborne came out about 4 years ago. So, like, these games are not new. Now, to be fair, about a couple months back, there was the Dark Souls Remastered, which I'm playing right now. But still, that seems like it's still a bit too long. So I don't know why they would choose to write this article now. Let me ask you guys, how much do you, who here, if you've played the Dark Souls games, any of them, For you know, any amount of time, really, put a 1 in the chat. I want to know who here has played it, and so that I know. It could be Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2. Although if you only played Dark Souls 2, I feel bad for you. That is the worst example of a Dark Souls game. Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne. If you played any of those. Or if you've played Kingsfield. I don't know how old the people are in here, so. Shaman King says, I played Dark Souls 3. Ken says 1. Okay, so Observing Libertarian never played it. They're really good games, man. The whole like they're really, really hard thing, don't buy into it that much. It's actually not that bad. Like, if you're a halfway decent, like, old school gamer that used to play like old video games, like the old Castlevanias or like Mega Man or whatever, games where you actually had to be good, like decent at them, you wouldn't find that the Souls games are that much difficult. It's just that people are spoiled on like games that are essentially that walk them through it. Like, if you were pretty good at the original Doom, or, you know, yeah, they're not that hard. They're not that hard. And the more you play them, the better you get. Even if you die a lot, it's okay. Okay, so Ocarina of Time had better control scheme than Dark Souls 2. Yeah, Dark Souls 2 is just, they phoned that one in. Different directors. So anyway, if you guys have had experience, then what I'm going to read to you, I'll try to explain it for people who don't know, if I come across something here that's like a bit vague, or that you don't get because you never played the games. I'll try to explain it, but it looks like most people get it to some degrees. Getting Dark Souls 1 next month, like the remastered. If you're on PS4 and you want to like join me for some jolly cooperation, you know, let me know, add me. I know. Oh, hey, Teal Deer, what's up? If you beat Battletoads, you can beat literally any game. Yeah, for sure. Fact. Facts, y'all. No citations needed. Observing Libertarian says, if you played Dark Souls 2, I feel bad for you. I own the whole series, but 2 ain't 1. Cues the beat. I actually have Dark Souls 2. Because I'm that much of a fanatic. And while I don't think that Dark Souls 2 is a really bad game, it's definitely the worst of all of the Souls games, and by a pretty big margin. Like, I played through it once, beat it, and then I was like, I'm not touching this game again. Hail the Teal Deer. Yeah, what's up, man? Teal Deer, you want to come on our on Honey Badger Radio sometime? We'll do a video on stuff. Just if you wanna, I can find something to talk about. Anyway, let's get into this article. I don't want to waste any more time. Okay, so Souls games are great, except for the sexist messages from some players. This guy must have just started playing it. Oh, and then this fucking pleb, he puts up a screenshot from Dark Souls 2. You fucking pleb. That is not the game that you should be using as your example of a guy who's played Dark Souls. It says, woman ahead, try thrust. Oh my god, the sexism. So, why? Why is this message like this? I should probably explain this, but let me read a little bit and you guys will get it. Since the release of From Software's Demon Souls in 2009 and its spiritual successors, the Dark Souls trilogy and Bloodborne, have acquired reputations that are both built on the games themselves and players' responses to them. Demon Souls and its descendants are as dependent upon their mechanics, level design, and art direction for effect as they are upon narrative obfuscation, and audiences have happily engaged this by spending years picking at details to assemble interpretive webs. These are lushy, mysterious worlds that people, including me, fellow gamers, want to emotionally invest in. And yet, time and again, that mysteriousness has been degraded by player messages being used for sexist ends. When Demon Souls came out, it had several interesting ideas about how to utilize online interactivity. One of these was its messaging system. Any player could choose from a small bank of words and phrases in order to construct sentences represented visually as a strip of glowing runes on the ground. The game was largely played solo, but messages made by one player could be seen by others who had the option to rate a given message and give its author a health boost. Messages could be used to mislead inexperienced players by, for example, placing a vague "if you jump down from here" besides a lethal drop. Their main intent was to make the game easier by way of publicized tips. Not really, dude. Not really. The idea is that it allows the community that plays the Souls games to interact with each other. Yes, you could use it to help people, but there was never a rule that said you had to use messages to help people. You will get people who will troll you. And the way you know whether or not a message is a troll, the only evidence you have, if you don't have experience with the game, is that you had to look and see how many times the message was rated. If the message was rated a bunch of times, then you could assume that it's probably helpful info. If it's not, then it may not be, or it might be a new message, and you'd have to like take the risk and try it out. Although, to be fair, sometimes, and this is definitely a thing that happens, people will uprate messages that are troll messages just to throw people off. You just gotta you gotta roll with it, man. Like, the Dark Souls world is brutal, and that means the fans, the people who play the game, are also brutal. So sorry, you know. So don't assume that what the intent of something is just because it has the capacity to be helpful. If upcoming terrain were dangerous, then you might see, quote, beware of the floor ahead, and then sniper's perch might alert less experienced players to a good location for long-range attacks. Or well-placed, if you use the lever you can proceed, could draw your attention to a mechanism. Yes, those are all things. Here's another quote from another screenshot from Dark Souls 2. Wow, this guy, fuck. Another one from Dark Souls 2. Another one from Dark Souls 2. And here are the messages. Let's look at them. Hurrah for chest. And he's like talking to this girl. Okay. This is a, this guy in the middle of the screen is the player character. This is an NPC. She's like a shop. If I remember correctly, she sells things to use to like craft and like upgrade weapons and armor and shields. Then it says, hurrah for chest, therefore try tongue. Oh, so sexist. Be wary of tongue, in short, try behind. Oh my god. Humans being humans, a bit of a crudeness crept in, aided by some of Demon Souls' linguistic ambiguities, such as the unassuming noun of head. Give people a blank wall and spray paint and somebody will eventually draw genitalia. Crucial to this metaphor is the fact that such anatomical graffiti, at least in openly public spaces, is nearly always of a penis. Yes, because penises are funnier and easier to draw than vaginas. When you draw a vagina, sometimes people don't know that they're actually looking at a vagina, and a lot of times people who are drawing penises on a wall don't know has never seen a vagina before. So, because you got to consider the audience, man. In one sense, it is a juvenile joke. In another and a more serious sense, it is a territorial, gendered assertion of power. So if a 12-year-old kid gets a spray can and draws a penis on the wall in a public space, he is marking his territory and asserting power over the women that might travel there. What are you talking about? And also, have you considered that they also draw boobs? Boobs is actually a very common thing that people will draw. Is that also an assertion of power? Oh, no. That's just objectification. If they're drawing titties, it's objectification. If they're drawing dicks, it's like the Thor's hammer. It's basically like, back off, bitch. There are dicks here. That's what it means. I'm sorry, I don't speak Kotaku. All right. Let's see. Such has been the evolutionary trend of the grosser Soulsborne messages, with an important distinction: their targets. As Demon Souls' messaging system became a trope utilized by the Dark Souls trilogy and Bloodborne, so too did its hub, which is always inhabited by a significant female character. These people like to use the word trope a lot. Have you guys noticed that? It's like they use it in a way that's borderline pejorative. Like, this is just a trope. Like, you guys do this too much, and I think it's because of bigotry. It's not because it works. That's like saying, you know, Mega Man fights 8 bosses before he gets to Dr. Wily. It's a trope. That's a bad thing. They shouldn't. Maybe next time he should just go straight to Dr. Wily and have all the powers. Or maybe next time, you know, Simon Belmont should start the game with all the weapons fully upgraded. Or maybe next time you start a game of, you know, starting from level 1 in Fallout or Skyrim. That's a trope. Shouldn't be doing that so much. It's just kind of, it's just played out, bro. It's just played out. Okay, says it became a trope utilized by the Dark Souls trilogy and Bloodborne. So too did its hub, which is always inhabited by a significant female character. Wrong. Wrong. Dark Souls 1 is not inhabited by a significant female character. You would know that if you fucking played it. Although the other games do. Well, technically, in Bloodborne, there's a doll. It's not male or female. It's genderless. You transphobe. For Demon Souls, it was the Nexus and the Maiden in Black. For Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3, Firelink Shrine and the Firekeeper. Well, the Firekeeper didn't talk, though, and she was behind a gate in the original Dark Souls. She wasn't really a character. She didn't do anything. You gave her the Firekeeper soul to upgrade, but you didn't actually have to give it to her. And in Dark Souls 2, Majula and the Emerald Herald, and the Hunter's Dream and the Doll for Bloodborne. Each of these has come to bear the brunt of sexist messages, with other female characters sharing most of the rest. Alright, I take it back. Maybe you did play Dark Souls 1. Things weren't, or at least you heard it somewhere, or you went to the wiki or something. Before I read the next paragraph, I'm going to look at what your comments are, because I feel like I missed a bunch of stuff. Let's see. Teal Deer, so it's a legit tip for people looking to kill them. Okay, I'm missing. Oh yeah, Teal Deer. Let me guess. Hitbox on the target only allows thrust from long-range weapons to strike past terrain or something. So it's a legit tip. Well, if you use the word thrust in the context of, you know, like actually trying to say something useful, yeah, it basically means thrusting weapons would work better on this target. But of course, SJWs don't actually play these games, so they wouldn't know stuff like that. Well, they might, but I mean, they're okay with twisting those words, right? Let's see. Teal Deer again. Might as well say Demon Souls encouraged people to suicide because there was a point in the Nexus where the handrail on a platform was broken and people spammed to take a step forward on that spot. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me see. Shaman King says never played Demon Souls, but it sounds like something Dark Souls Souls players would do. It's the same. It's absolutely the same. I think Demon Souls is really good. If you could play it. And I would say that it's probably the hardest of the Souls games in some ways. It actually does. It's actually a harder game. Let's see. Wikipedia snippet. Did you? No, I'm not going to read that. Guinevere, Goddess of Sunlight. Yes. Prepare for amazing chest or something like that. Observing Libertarian. Do you remember the video clips of that insane chick who almost accosted a mailman claiming he was following her, or the orange flagged markers in the snow of where medians were? Are you talking about orange flagged markers? I don't know. I think is that Sarah Silverman? I remember her making comments about those markers being swastikas. Confusing dongs drawn by children to be funny as territorial markers is identical to that hysterical feminist who thought that median markers in the snow were the same thing. Yeah. Tropes are not bad, by the way. No, I don't think they're bad. It's a core mechanic. Oh, Teal Deer says it. Core mechanic when they like it, trope when they don't. Yeah, it's just it's like, it's part of the game. It's what people come to expect. You know? Like, if you took that out, you know, you're gonna splinter your audience. Let's put it that way. It's always a risk. I wanted to try Pillars of Eternity, but I don't have time to play anyway. I don't know what that is. It sounds pretty epic. You can kill the Firekeeper in Dark Souls 3. She gets better, though, yeah. You can kill the Maiden in Black in Dark Souls 1, I believe. Alright, anyway. So, things weren't too bad at the earliest stages. In Demon Souls, spots where the Maiden in Black might be standing or sitting were indeed complemented by messages. But the tone was often more romanticizing. You'll find true love ahead, than outright sexualizing. From area to area, there appeared to be a general willingness to roleplay along with the game's bleak atmosphere. Messages left near the maiden Astrea, a saint who cared for the deformed and sickly, and who also served as a fairly harmless boss whom the player was nonetheless required to kill, tended to be things like, "My heart's breaking," rather than anything crass. In fact, over the past year, or over the past near decade, Demon Souls messages tended to be fine, maybe owing to unexplored differences in player bases or the planar designs for most of the women. No, it's probably because the Demon Souls audience was the smallest audience. It was the smallest player base because it was only available on PlayStation 3 as an exclusive, and also for a large amount of time, it was like a latecomer. Because it was first available in Japan and Asian audiences, and then they weren't even going to bring it to the States, but enough people were buying the import version of the Asian game because all the spoken language was in English anyway, that they were, able to play it. And when From Software, the developer, also developer of Armored Core, which is a personal favorite game series of mine, they saw the sales were doing really well, so they said, you know what, maybe there is an audience for this, and then they, essentially translated the game and made it available to Western audiences. But by that time, people had, the game had been out for a little while in Asian audiences, and it didn't have any marketing associated with it, really, so a lot of people didn't really know that Demon Souls was a thing, and they didn't know what the big deal was, so it didn't really do super well. It did well enough to justify its existence, but that's the reason why I think it's one of the reasons why when From Software decided to make a sequel, they did not go with Demon Souls 2, and the reason being is that Sony owns the rights to Demon Souls, so if they make a Demon Souls 2, it would have to be a PlayStation 3 exclusive. So they started a new series called Dark Souls, which is essentially the same shit, and with just like refinements on, the changes in the lore, so that they feel like they're potentially different worlds, and they are, but like spiritually, it's very, very, very similar to Demon Souls. And so Dark Souls was available on, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, which is a much, much larger audience. So that's the reason. It was basically like the audience was smaller, and they were a lot more like, in a way, when a community is a lot smaller, they tend to be a lot more supportive and committed, even though there were still people trolling, and even though there were still jokes that were written in the messages. And also, the number of message options you had in Demon Souls was actually fewer than in Dark Souls. So you couldn't do as much with it, in terms of telling jokes and stuff. So anyway, from area to area, there appeared to be a general willingness to roleplay along with the game's bleak atmosphere. Well, I mean, like, whether or not people want to roleplay along with the game is up to them, dude. Again, this is more of this is what was intended type shit, I think. Messages left near the maiden Astrea, a saint who... I already read that part, right? Tended to be things like "my heart's breaking" rather than anything crass. In fact, over the past near decade, Demon Souls messages tended to be fine. Maybe owing to unexplored differences in player bases or the planar designs for most of the women. Again, I don't think it has to do with the women. The Souls games are dark. They're dark in general. And everyone... It's funny because, like, the Souls games should be... theoretically, the game series that feminists would be most in support of, since the armor and the designs of the females are almost identical to to the designs of the males, with the exception of the fact that they're female. So like a woman in full armor looks like a man in full armor, except that her body is slightly smaller and, you know, she has like a narrower waist. But otherwise, they look the same. And so one would think that they would be in support of that. But again, they think that it's like planar designs. It's not really planar designs. The Maiden in Black from the original Demon Souls is my favorite of the what do you call it? The fire keepers in all the games. So, all right. Anyway. Teal Deer, they're all right. Oh, let's see. Go back up. Observing Libertarian. Being concepts, in spite of the fact that the concept in and of itself is not only not supported by, but may be contradicted by factual reality. Yeah. Teal Deer. Yeah, kill Maiden in Black at the end. Betray the world. You get the PvP stone to invade people then on the next playthrough. Yes. Teal Deer, how are the halberd weapons in Dark Souls 1? I use the immolation tinder in Dark Souls 3. They're alright. Clip a lot with terrain though. Yeah, in one-handed mode. Oh, Dark Souls. I don't know. I only played Demon Souls. Probably the same. Yeah, basically they're the same. They didn't change much. And the whole thing with like the clipping, you know, I don't want to get into the mechanics, but it's weird because some weapons will bounce off of some surfaces sometimes, and others will pass through them. So like I use the black. I'm currently playing Dark Souls Remastered, and I'm able to kill like snake men through the walls because I'm currently in Sen's Fortress. I've been playing slowly, but surely because I'm usually working a lot. And sometimes I can kill guys through the wall. Sometimes I can't. It just depends on the fucking geometry. I don't know. And let me see what else. Observing Libertarian, didn't play any of this shit. I was into tactical shooters, then moved into RPGs via Final Fantasy VII, Skyrim, into WoW, and a myriad of other MMOs at different times. Finally, SWTOR. I love it. Yeah, it depends on what you're into. All right. Anyway, the most sexually suggestive messages devisable may have been Sticky White Stuff, a badly localized name for a magic-infusing item. All right, so if you play Demon Souls, Sticky White Stuff, it could have been it's an item that you get that you use on your sword to give it magical properties. So it does magic damage. Certain enemies are... Actually, I would say that many enemies are especially vulnerable to magic damage. Putting Sticky White Stuff on your weapon will basically give it that property. It looks like wax. And I think that might be how it's described. Let me see. Because I know you guys want to make Sticky White Stuff jokes. I get it. I did too. Demon Souls. A sticky white wax-like substance applied to the right hand. It looks like a part of a candle, to be honest. When you look at it, it looks like a bit of a candle. It is said to be the waste product of a magical slug that bathed in fluorescent water. There you go. And there's even a section in the game where you actually, like, fight against the slugs in the water, and you can farm them for Sticky White Stuff. So, but when it comes to the word itself, Sticky White Stuff, it could be that the guys at From Software were joking. It could also be that this is like the way that the item translates from the Japanese language, and they were basically just doing a direct translation, because I think there was a small team working on Dark Souls. Like, for example, the stuff that you eat to heal yourself is called grass. And different grasses, you know, heal you at different amounts, because there's no Estus flask in the original Dark Souls. It's all like grass. And so you could make weed jokes, I suppose. 420 praise it. But, yeah, Sticky White Stuff is, it's not a badly localized, well, badly localized might be his way of saying that it's like badly translated, but I don't think that there's anything nefarious at play. If at worst, I think it's like just kind of funny. So, yeah, cannabis is has healing properties. It got worse. Perhaps it didn't help that the post-Demon Souls titles, promotional material, and press coverage emphasized the trial and error design. The subtitle for Dark Souls PC release was Prepare to Die Edition. a cover of Edge magazine, appropriately named Edge magazine, read, quote, how the creators of Demon's Souls are making the most hardcore game of 2011. This was influenced by, but also fed into, the commentary of many players themselves until there was a perfect loop of word of mouth and branding. During Dark Souls 2's development, or lack thereof, co-director Tomohiro Shibuya talked about making the game more accessible. And this invoked an outrage only warily quelled when it was clarified that such accessibility involved quality of life adjustments. No, not only that. Not only that, they made Dark Souls 2 accessible in a lot of ways, and they fucked it up. One of the ways, okay, so here's the thing. I gotta talk about this for a second. So first of all, yes, the thing about Demon's Souls that really sold people was the difficulty. It was the fact that it was seen as challenging. Although, and in ways it is, but in other ways, you can make the game a lot easier. And again, it's like most, you know, the more you play it, the better you get. But I went back and played Demon's Souls because I still have it. I went back and played it recently. Unfortunately, the servers are closed, so there's no more multiplayer. But I went back and played it recently, and I think that in some ways that game is harder than the Dark Souls games are. So that being said, that was what attracted people to Demon's Souls. The people who did get into it. And it did become popular as an idea. Unfortunately, though, PC players and Xbox players couldn't play it. So they were just like, man, I'd love to play a game like that. Now, what this tells me is that there's a lot of people that want challenging games. And I think that one of the ways in which they kind of like, they satisfy that hunger for a challenging game is by playing multiplayer, because a lot of times the most difficult player or the most difficult enemy that you face is another human being somewhere else, because you don't know how much better they, you know, than you that they are, right? So like PvE stuff and single player experiences were on the decline in a lot of ways, and Demon's Souls kind of like reinvigorated that, because even though it has a multiplayer element to it, you certainly don't have to play it that way. So I think that actually says that trying to make games more accessible, it's a bad idea. And so, and the fact that Dark Souls 2, it was a lot of problems with Dark Souls 2, not just that, but I do think that they made it too easy in a lot of ways. On top of the fact that it was just lazy, and on top of the fact that they fucking lied to you about what was going to be in the game when they showed a demo of it back when it was first being sort of showing gameplay. They fucking lied about what was in the game. But that aside, what they did, this is the thing, okay? In Demon's Souls, you healed by eating grasses. You got grasses by either buying them or by farming them. There were different levels of grasses, but they got more expensive as it went along. Now, there is a hack that lets you get unlimited 99 of everything, but that was it's a glitch that you can exploit. It's not really a hack, I guess. Well, whatever. It's a bit of both. But before people knew that, they were working with limited resources. However, they were resources that you could farm, and so you could theoretically have a lot of healing if you did the work. When Dark Souls came out, they tried to mitigate that, and they added the Estus Flask. And the Estus Flask essentially is a limited number of heals that you get between one bonfire and the next bonfire. The better you got at the game, the less of the Estus Flask you might need, but essentially it was like getting that many tries. Now, of course, you can add on top of that, if you learn healing spells or if you use humanity, you could heal yourself with that. There was other ways you could do it, although those were harder to come by, much harder to come by, than the Estus Flask, which was essentially always available. Okay. In Dark Souls 2, though, they added these things called healing stones. I think they're healing stones or healing gems or something. And you could just buy those like crazy. And while when you use them, they would heal you slowly over time, they were so good that you could just use those and not even drink your Estus Flask. So they were trying to make the game easier, although the combat was shit. But that's a different issue. Teal Deer, have they mentioned the mechanical incentive to make jokes using the message system? In Demon Souls, if someone avoided your message, you got healed. Yeah, you did, but I don't know that you do in the Dark Souls games. I don't know that you do. So being funny and or creative was incentivized as much, if not more, than being helpful. Absolutely. They haven't gotten to that yet. It's my fault. I keep stopping. My point is that Dark Souls 2 was made too easy because of the healing gems. All of this recalled video games' earlier advertorial and critical periods that stressed difficulty and presented the medium as an exclusive club where entry was dependent on performative abilities. Yeah, you had to get good. That was the meme of Dark Souls. And it stressed the difficulty, but I do think it kind of overplayed it because the difficulty was higher than most games, but not like higher than games, you know, like throughout history. Like games from the past were much more difficult. Since this gatekeeping has come under threat as the medium's reach has expanded, we've witnessed escalating hysterics by men to protect their space and consumerist identities. Not by men, you fucker. Just by people who are good at the game. A lot of males couldn't play it. I bought I bought Demon Souls for a friend of mine for a gift. And we played lots of video games together, and I said, "Dude, we gotta play this together. The co-op on here is a lot of fun, you know, and it's a fun game, but it's a challenge." But I mean, like, I knew him from old school gaming, so I was like, "Dude, you can do this. We can play this together." He fucking gave up. He gave up. He couldn't do it. He couldn't hack it. He was like, "Man, it's too hard." Like he couldn't even beat Phalanx. That's the first boss in Demon Souls. He was getting mad when he got angry when the fucking that first demon killed him. What the fuck is that demon called? I can't remember it. But there's like that first demon that you fight. It's basically like it kills you to put you in the Nexus. It's part of the story. Although you can beat it. And he couldn't even, he gave up. He basically was a quitter. And I was like, "You suck, bro." Anyway, we're not friends anymore. Not because of that, though. So anyway, implicitly and explicitly, this was a boys' club. Since the gatekeeping has come under threat as the medium's reach has expanded, we've witnessed escalating hysterics by men to protect their space and consumers' identities. It is not such a leap to hypothesize that this tough-as-nails branding of the Soulsborne games drew in a portion of the get-good contingent. Anxious, angry, and arrogant men who derive entertainment from surrounding fictional women with ghostly perimeters of misogyny. Oh, this is dumb. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. The headspace you have to be in to believe this shit. Good Lord. When Dark Souls 2 hit, and you know, I'll give you further evidence as to why challenging games like the Dark Souls series are so popular, and they're becoming more popular with people. Look at Cuphead. Cuphead is pretty challenging too, you know? And people play the shit out of it. And the fucking game reviewers can't even play that game. Game reviewers. That's why I have a hard time believing this guy. Also, have you guys seen Mauler? Do you guys know who Mauler is? Oh, I know Teal Deer knows because he actually told me about him. Mauler did like a 7-part, like 7 or 8-part response video. This guy is amazing. He did an 8-part response video or 7-part response video to H Bomber Guy, who was trying to make the argument that Dark Souls 2 is good, or maybe even the best Dark Souls game. And I watched all of those videos because I was that interested in the topic. And one of the things that he brings up is all of the flaws that I'm talking about. And H Bomber Guy, you know, he's a social justice warrior, right? And he was trying to make the case that Dark Souls 2 is actually a good game, if not the best game. I think he was actually trying to make that argument. And I would not be surprised that the fact that it actually is easier has a lot to do with it. I would not be surprised. All right. When Dark Souls 2 hit, many factors mitigating the presence of toxic gamers seemed to evaporate, creating an open season for female characters. Jesus Christ. They and the Emerald Herald, most of all, were so aggressively targeted by player messages. Fucking fictional characters represented by pixels that happen to be described as female are being aggressively targeted by character messages. Some messages such as weakness, hole, therefore man required a head. Is it a front hole? Is it the front hole? Or try plunging attack, rear. Try two-handing and then destroy, etc. That I have, to date, never loaded a file in Majula and not found a swamp of textual harassment. Its range extended all the way to the world's near deepest parts, where sheltered, mysterious women sang lonely songs. Are you serious? Its range extended all the way to the world's near... Oh, I know the woman in that one area that's singing. So? They're fucking fictional. They're not real people. Can you imagine thinking that women are so weak that if they put in Dark Souls 2 and they go to the Emerald Herald and they see those messages that they just want to quit the game? Those people are the ones most deserving of the get good meme. They just get over it. Get strong. The women in the hubs of the Souls games are, to varying degrees, depicted as subservient. They're NPCs! What are you talking about? The fucking blacksmith is subservient. If by that logic, they do what you ask because that's why they're there until they attack you. Oh, I think they mean... Okay, maybe he's saying... Let me just keep reading. The main in black is pigeon-toed. Well, now we know this guy's into feet because he was paying attention to that. And she... and the Dark Souls 3's Firekeeper have a sort of binding over their eyes. It's part of the story. The eyes of the Firekeeper. They're blinded. The main in black thing they never explain, or at least I don't know. I haven't looked into it too much. In order to learn the lore, you have to like do a lot of work reading all the item descriptions, and even then you have to do some reaching. But yeah, the Firekeeper in Dark Souls 3 is the character on the screen. She has a thing over her eyes. And actually, you get the eyes of the Firekeeper in Dark Souls 3, and you can offer them to her. And if you do, then you get the bad ending, I believe. Or a different ending. I don't know that there's good endings per se. Dark Souls pretty dark. Anastasia, Dark Souls' Firekeeper, has a mutilated tongue and cannot speak. If attacked, the Emerald Herald simply says, "If that is your wish." And like the others, well, that's because they can't become hostile. They can't become hostile because they also level you up. You're supposed to feel bad that you did it, I think. Maybe not. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't. And, like the others, will not resist attempts at her life. But it would be a mistake to cast blame upon the women themselves for inviting harassment. Nobody's saying that. What the fuck is wrong with you? As if they, like shame victims of rape, were asking for it. That is not even at all related. Wow, what a reach. Holy shit, man. You sure you didn't pull something reaching that far for that idea? Holy shit. Rather, we should observe that this seems to be a perfect storm of subservient female characters, a portion of an audience eager to reinforce this subservience, and a mechanic which gives them the ability to do so with a degree of crudity, perhaps befitting the message's content. Why would you kill the Maiden in Black? Why would you kill the Emerald Herald? Why did you choose to do that, bro? You don't have to. You ever heard of choice? Did this guy just like go up to the Emerald Herald, see the messages, and say, I can't help myself. The misogyny, the ocean of misogynistic messages around the Emerald Herald makes me want to use my greatsword to thrust at her and kill her because they told me to. What the fuck? You know, the thing about, one of the things that people found appealing about the Souls games, and I'm going to say with Demon Souls because that's the first one that did it, is that every single NPC in the game can be attacked if you wanted to. Most of them would fight back. Some of them would not. Okay? you could attack any NPC, even by accident. A lot of times they would give you a warning if you did. But if you hit them and did enough damage and they became hostile, you could not change it because the game automatically saved as you play. So if you fuck up and you attack a guy, whether it's the guy who holds your shit for you, the blacksmith, the guy who teaches you magic, the character that teaches you the miracles, whatever, they become hostile, you kill them, you can't use their services anymore. Period. You're done. Right? That's the point. It's on purpose, and people like it because it's sort of, for them, it feels more immersive. Right? Oh, I can do this. This is unusual. Most of the time, they intentionally make NPCs invulnerable so you don't accidentally kill anyone, or they don't give you the option to attack them at all. So, he's saying that this is a problem. I don't know. By Dark Souls 2 and 3, it was clear that sexist messages didn't even require women to be present. What? It could be enough just to have details which allow a stereotypical association to be made. A message in front of some bowls in a kitchen area of Dark Souls 3 might say, "Woman required a hand." I remember reading a message like that. In Dark Souls 3, there's a section in the Undead Settlement. It's like further in. And there's like this house you go into. And there's a secret room. There's like a... Well, it's not secret, but there's a hidden room you can get into. And in there's a kitchen area with like a hearth or something. And there's like bowls and stuff. And people have put messages like that. Woman required a head. It's funny. I thought it was funny. So... A generic female statue in Dark Souls 2 could have "woman therefore bleeding." Oh my god, the most written next to it, the implication being, like this guy has to explain, that's the joke. The implication being that even the representation of a woman is reducible to her menstrual period or torn hymen. Beneath paintings of... This guy's a little... He's projecting a lot too. He's thinking about hymens when looking at statues. That's fucking weird. Beneath paintings of the goddess Guinevere in Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3, you'd often find try holding with both hands. He fills in the blank, though. Her breasts, that's not in the message. So this guy has to literally, like, fill in the blanks. You don't know that's what they're talking about, even though Guinevere is busty as shit. That's actually the most unsettling thing about the original Dark Souls game, is when you first run into Guinevere. Because that's the first time you actually come across titties in the game. And they're actually kind of shocking. I was shocked. I thought it was an enemy disguised as titties. I didn't trust it. Like, it could be a pair of mimics or something. I didn't want to approach. But I didn't want to attack because it could be an NPC. I was genuinely scared. Especially, like, I'd just gotten through beating Ornstein and Smo, which was a fucking pain in the ass. So, you know, I was right to be a little on edge when I came across a pair of titties. Right after that. You can't trust anything in Dark Souls. Can't trust anything. Alright. Many players are also likely familiar with how Dark Souls' deific character of Gwendolyn, who can be interpreted as a trans woman, often as nearby messages employing trap in the transphobic sense. No, trap is not transphobic, it's funny! So Gwendolyn is a character, a boss that you can fight in the original Dark Souls, that is a boy, or was a boy, raised as a girl. And so that's why the feminine name Gwendolyn, and that's on purpose, right? That was part of the story. I don't want to give the lore away, but basically Gwendolyn was male but raised as female. So they used trap. That's funny. Okay. If an ostensibly straight man finds himself attracted to someone who turns out to have a penis, he's been maliciously deceived. That's what trap means. Well, yeah, that is deceptive. I mean, if somebody tells you they're a girl and they have a dick, I think that is deceitful. I think that's deceitful. And I think that if you take it personally, it's okay. I think that's kind of fucked up, right? Aldrich faithful for life, yeah. It's hard to know what to do about any of this now, besides point it out and call it for what it is. A form of censorship. So messages in Dark Souls is censorship now. How? Alright, let's find out. A form of censorship was introduced... Oh, okay. I got it wrong. I jumped the gun. I'm sorry. A form of censorship was introduced with a list of censored words for character names in Dark Souls 2's PC release, but the list was poorly compiled. For example, no one uses bisexual as an insult. The idea of censoring Lucifer is bizarrely outdated. Bestiality isn't even spelled right, and the banning of whole conflicts with its inclusion in the message's word bank. Moreover, it only drew attention to slurs and expletives within otherwise decent words or names. For example, the common title of Knight would show up as Knut because it contains nig, or if your title were Holy, the censoring of Ho would make it into Lee. Well, isn't this something that you guys are for, though? Isn't this something you guys are for? With Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, players were finally able to downvote messages, and such messages would be then less likely to appear for other players. What motivated this option's introduction, however, is unknown. If it was an indirect way of addressing sexist and asinine messages, it was naive, as those messages tend to be among the higher rated ones around. Democracy, in this form, has not had a positive effect. Yeah, you guys don't like democracy, so... Anyone who has played these games will know that the majority of players' messages don't fit into the discussed paradigm. They mostly preempt hurdles, proclaim victories, encourage curiosity, and craft humorous, mimetic mini-narratives. So it's okay when they're funny, as long as that funniness is not directed at women. So I see jokes, but jokes about fictional, pixel-based, polygonal women, that's serious business. The Firekeeper is serious business, guys. Yet the sexist message's exceptional nature arguably heightens their presence. Once you can guess what a bunch of messages around a woman are bound to be, it colors your perception of that space. Coming back to a hub after some spelunking is not just a return to relative security, but can be a reminder of the cultural toxicity bubbling beneath the game's surface. YouTube user Jamerston's video, Happy Souls, has accrued nearly 17 million views since 2016, and as good-natured as it is, even it contextualizes the sight of the Emerald Herald encompassed by try-thrusting and ambush behind. Well, okay, well, I guess, let me see. Oh yeah, I'll finish the article. We're almost at the end anyway. The general response has been either to tolerate or embrace these messages as a dependable cultural signifier, like a thing that just came with the territory. In one Reddit thread about celebrating player messages, why would you make a thread about celebrating unless you just want to share the funny ones, I guess. A rare dissenter who clumsily says that they've tired of the sleaze is called, quote, a salty kid who needs to get good and is told to lighten the fuck up. Well, yes. I don't think he just clumsily says they're tired of the sleaze. Do you think that there's a more effective way of telling a community you don't like the way they do things and that they should change? Especially a community of hardcore gamers, which I would argue, if you play Dark Souls a lot and you're an enthusiast, you are, on some level, a hardcore gamer, right? And so that means that you know that there are way more important things in the game than the shit that people say and how they say it. So yeah, I don't think that those people respond well to tone policing, no matter how it's said. So don't come at me with this, he clumsily said it, and if, you know, as though if he said it in a better way, it would have changed things. And yes, that kid does need to get good and lighten the fuck up, because it's not about the messages. I mean, you can have fun with those, but that's not really the game, right? In another thread elsewhere, a person who specifically voices their disgust for the sexist messages is replied to with, "You've always been able to play offline." Yes, you don't have to play online. But just because you've averted your eyes doesn't mean the thing has disappeared. Willful ignorance is not a solution. You also don't have to click on the messages. You can play the game and not... I don't click on every message I come across. Especially when I know... Like, you know, there are some where the context tells you that the message is going to be a joke, most likely. So if you don't really feel like clicking on it, then don't click on it. Ultimately, it is unclear if From Software is aware of the issue. Yeah, because it's not an issue. Through a rep for the game's publisher, Bandai Namco, which published most of the Soulsborne games, they declined to comment for this article. Yeah, because it's not worth their time, dude. They're working on Sekiro now, right? Was it Sekiro? That's like the... Yeah, I think that's the new game they're making is Sekiro, which looks really good, by the way. And probably another Soulsborne game. They did at least refrain from including the term sticky white stuff in the game since Demon's Souls. No. The reason why is because Dark Souls is a different game in a different setting with different items. So sticky white stuff is not the only thing that went away. Most of the consumables are gone, with the exception of some. Like, I think firebombs were in Demon's Souls, and I think throwing knives were in Demon's Souls, but there's no grasses in Dark Souls, you know, there's no, the other item that they used to, like, fill up your magic, god damn it, is it incense or something? Old Spice, the spices, those aren't in there either, they got rid of that. So it's because it's a different game. It's not like they were like, you know, sticky white stuff is kind of sexist. Let's take it out. No, they just changed the stuff. Some things have carried over from Demon's Souls. It's sort of like how every Final Fantasy game has chocobos and moogles in it, and tonberries and like Marlboros, because they want to have that sort of like running throughout, and like the summons and whatnot. They want to like connect it with something that makes you feel like, even though this Final Fantasy game takes place in a different place at a different time with different technology, you know it's a Final Fantasy game based on what's some of the elements in it that are like sort of consistent. The Souls games do that too. Like there's the Moonblade is a weapon that is in all the games, if I remember correctly. Even Bloodborne has it. And so that's kind of neat, right? It's like a nod to all the other stuff. But they didn't take out the sticky white stuff because they were, you know, trying to be progressive. That's bullshit. So, in the game since Demon's Souls, the item's equivalent did not reappear until Dark Souls 2 as aromatic ooze. Fuck Dark Souls 2, it's a piece of shit. And this term was absent from the word bank. When Demon's Souls server shut down this year on February 28th, and later the upcoming Sengoku-themed Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was revealed to have no online component, both carried a sting for many people. It is disappointing for those who view From Software's modern output as inseparable from the multiplayer elements. For myself, though, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. You have a problem, my dude. Now, the Demon's Souls servers, they couldn't stay up forever, but they were up for 10 years. That's a long time. Are there any servers that you guys can think of for other games that are gone already? That didn't last 10 years? There probably are. So they actually hung in there for a long time. I still hold out hope that maybe From Software will make a sequel to Demon's Souls, or remaster the original Demon's Souls, but like really remaster it, not just like what Dark Souls Remastered isn't like that much of a leap forward. You know, it runs at a higher frame rate and stuff, but there was actually like a they did a thing for the original Dark Souls on PC. Somebody did a mod that's actually better than the remastered version of Dark Souls. So, but I'm a console peasant, and I don't use this PC to play video games really. This is for work only, so. Yeah, The Surge is another Soulsborne game that I heard about. As well as Neo. I played that one. That's pretty good. Talk about a company that made hard-ass games. Remember Ninja Gaiden? Like, that was a tough game. So, yeah. So, the new Sekiro doesn't have a multiplayer component. I mean, I think people were disappointed because they were expecting it to be another Souls game. in terms of its, you know, just by how it looks. But I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing because, like, most games before the Souls games came out that had this sort of third-person perspective were not online games anyway, so it was like, whatever. And that only tells me that they are going to be making another Soulsborne game soon. They just wanted to get this project out in between. That's what I suspect. Oh my god, I love this. So I'm just going to read this one comment, and then I'm going to wrap it up, and then maybe I'll do another show later in the week about something else. Royce the Voice comments. I'm surprised this didn't get, like, downvoted or taken off. Yet another why is this even an article on Kotaku moment. I don't post notes like this in Soulsborne games, nor do I find them funny. However, getting tilted enough to make a 2-page dissertation on the matter is fucking ludicrous. Go outside, lighten up, do literally anything else with your life. Oh no, Steven Totillo! Steven Totillo! He got something to say! I believe he works at Kotaku. He's one of these SJWs. He's one of the worst of them. I know the name. Oh, come on. The writer loves the series, dislikes this aspect of it, writes a piece that explains what happens in the games and what might be behind it. Do literally anything else with your life? Can you lighten up first? And then, if that seems like a ridiculous, overblown suggestion, well, then there you go. Stop complaining. Stop complaining that this guy is complaining. This isn't the comments section for comments about the article. You shouldn't have that opinion. Heather Alexandra with pink hair. So I can already tell. I wonder where this is going to go. A writer saw an interesting thing in a game and pitched a discussion piece about it. This is something that's always been in the games. It's acknowledged among fans, myself included. Yeah, you're a fan. And worth writing about. No, it's not. That doesn't translate into full-on tilt or panic or lolcow SJW cuckery. After all, we deal with shit every day that's far more foul than some off-color Dark Souls messages. And yet you're writing about off-color Dark Souls messages. If we had sugar water in our veins, we would have peaced out in 2014. I wish you would. I guess for me, what I see here is a writer exploring an unintended side effect of a now iconic series mechanic. I play a lot of Souls, and it's never really bothered me personally, but I see how it could. Ario took a risk to open up and talk about it. What do you mean, took a risk? This is your job! What are you talking about? I'm glad that's on the page. You go, Ario. You go. I support you. Don't let the haters get you down, queen. Oh my god. I'm not going to keep reading anymore. So, these people are fucking cancer. Fucking cancer. If you complain about stuff like this, you're a fan of bitching, not the game. Absolutely. Absolutely. What the fuck? Ario Ilami, the guy who wrote this, has a .NET personal website for his art. The website has an estimated value of less than $9. Lol. Fucking lol. The art of is it explicit? Are there titties or vaginas or something? Slay. Okay, he draws buildings. I mean, it looks good. I mean, I don't know what you could use this for. Maybe he had drafting class. Hey, look! Boulders. Is this Mundane Matt's house? Sorry, Matt. I just had to poke some fun. Okay. Yeah, it's boring. Fucking boring. Yeah, it's just ugly architecture. Roblox dead. Sound effects. Alright, well, anyway. I will, not yours, though. What? Oof. All right, I'm gonna go, y'all. But thanks for coming and hanging out with me while I go through this Souls article as well as the Vampire the Masquerade stuff. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about these things. You know, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. Thanks for coming on the stream. I will do a video on this Cyberpunk interview either, I don't know, maybe tomorrow if I have time. I got to work on the show stuff. So it'll either be tomorrow or Wednesday. All right? Talk to you guys later. Have a good one, man. Main. Boy.